gallery hurled abuse at the Prime Minister, calling her Julia, amongst other profanities. Take a look.
This is question time. It is not a football match. That word is not acceptable from anybody in this place.
The Speaker of the House, Anna Burke, clearly had enough yesterday. And Federal Health Minister Tanya Plibersek joins us now from Canberra. Good morning to you, Minister. They were pretty ugly scenes yesterday.
Oh, they were, Lisa, and I think that what really worries people, of course, is that we're very fortunate in Australia. Our question time is open to anyone. The galleries are open. If you go around the world, you see a lot of public galleries are actually glassed in, and we want to keep that openness and that very strong sense of democracy. But what we had yesterday were people who'd been at a protest outside, a protest that had, Barnaby Joyce and Craig Kelly and other Liberals attending it, whipped up and then coming into question time and shouting at that sort of abuse. And the question Rob Oakeshott asked was, why were those people in the Speaker's Gallery, which is a part of the public gallery that's normally you have to be signed into by a Member of Parliament. So there are certainly some questions there about the kind of culture that has developed in the modern Liberal Party of Australia.
Apart from Julia, what other words did you hear hurled at the Prime Minister?
Oh, well, that's actually most of what I heard, but I did notice that there were a lot of I don't want to, family TV viewing hours, but there was some pretty awful language out again on the lawns of Parliament House, and it does really concern me. I think about the sort of culture of we're in the conflict business. We argue about ideas all the time. That's not surprising. But if we're going to go into a period where everybody in public life is subject to this sort of personal abuse and vilification, we'll turn good people away from public life. And I think it's a real turn-off for people. I mean, even Darren Chester, who's one of the members of the opposition, was saying yesterday that it's gone too far, that the personal abuse has gone too far.
Well, you were heard directing a comment at Tony Abbott yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong, but that you leant towards him and said, you created this culture.
And I believe that. I think about the type of opposition leader that Kim Beazley was, or the type of opposition leader that Brendan Nelson was. They were always looking for ways of agreeing with the government when it was in the public interest. And of course we disagreed at times, there's no question of that. But you've got Liberal Party members of Parliament out on the lawns whipping people up. You've got people out there in Liberal Party T-shirts who then come into the Parliament with the feeling that their views are sanctioned and their behaviour is sanctioned by the highest levels of the Liberal Party in Australia. I think it's a very bad time and it's a very bad culture.
Okay, just briefly on another issue, I'd like you to have a look at the front page and some other pages from today's Daily Telegraph, which has compared Senator Stephen Conroy to Joseph Stalin and even Robert Mugabe after his press reform announcements yesterday. Stephen Conroy's not Robert Mugabe's. What do you think of those?
Oh, look, I think that they're a little bit over the top. Anybody who's had family member or family history of a person who's been murdered by one of those dictators probably wouldn't like to see their images used so lightly. But the point is that what they're accusing Stephen of is a crackdown on freedom of speech, and of course this sort of freedom of speech would be allowed under any changes that Stephen's proposing. The changes are about making sure that we've got a strong and diverse media in Australia, making sure that Australians expect that if they make a complaint about the media that it's taken seriously. And I think that there's been some concern in the past that the bodies set up to monitor these things are kind of toothless tigers. So making sure that there's diversity in the media, but also making sure that if a person has a complaint, it can be taken seriously.
Okay, Minister, we will have to leave it there. Thanks very much for your time this morning.